we will talk about a very important topic, the future of fashion. Perhaps we are being too pompous or we are being too ambitious, but I think this is a very important time when we really have to ask very basic and fundamental questions of where we are and what we are, where we are heading. Okay. I would start by thanking the International College of Fashion to give us platforms where we can discuss these important aspects. Today we have a panel of 6 people, and they cover various fields, and hopefully they will add to what we have to say. Starting with designers, Ashish, Soni, Tarun, Tahiliani, and Hemant, Sagar. All of them are like my personal friends. No sort of formal sort of relationships with them, but very personal ones. Kevin, of course, I'm meeting for the first time. He is a VR specialist. In our parlance, more of a digital technologist. Perhaps that is the hour that has come, and we will hear from him. And we have 2 people, Mamta, Garg and Jaivani, Bajaj, who are fashion educationists. Okay, so there is a new wave of fashion designers, and they perhaps down the line will have to carry the lamp, and perhaps in very different and very trying circumstances. I know everyone's, yes, I know everyone's time is very valuable. So I will keep my part of it brief. And the way I'm going to work, because we have a large panel, I will start with each person. I will introduce them. I'll ask them a question, and they can start off, and the rest of the panelists are like our audience who can also question him or make comments at the end of it, and then I will go on to the next panelist and so forth. Okay. Fine. Okay, I was just looking at. Okay. Fine. So let me start by saying that the world is changing a lot, and it's changing. The world is changing. Yeah. Okay. Hello. Yeah. The world is changing a lot, and it's changing very fast. There are a lot of new disruptive technologies happening, and we have seen things like taxis, or concept of taxi disappearing, the airlines, and a lot of industries. Somehow, up till now, fashion design has been untouched. If you look at fashion design, if you see how the industry is operating in terms of manufacturing, in terms of retailing, I think it's largely, and I used to pride in that actually, being in the fashion industry. And I would, and I thought that this was because the fashion is based on passion. So technology will never outdo that passion. You know, this is what we are defined with. Okay, so that is what I thought, and that is what it is. But recently we had a black swan event, as one can say, and this black swan event was, of course, the COVID-19, and it has, of course, left in a lot of disruption. In the short run, one can say, oh, this is just a temporary thing and everything is back to normal. But I think people are seeing again and again, there are going to be certain permanent changes. On the other side, one can say that these changes were already in the process of making. But now that this COVID-19 has accelerated it, at least that's what I believe. And of course, if you differ, you can say that. So this is the sort of changes that are happening. So today, I think at least we cannot go back, in fact. And we have to perhaps we have to reimagine the fashion industry. Uh, and of course, help others also and help guide and help understand what is happening. How do we future-proof the industry? What are the trends that are taking place? So these are some of the questions we need to ask. I must say about a month back, we are, okay, about a month back, we had, about a month back, we had another webinar and we had Ashish Soni. And I must say he did a fantastic presentation based on research and other things. And of course, the COVID-19 was still fresh. There was a lot of disruption. And of course, we thought of it more in terms of short term. And of course, but he made a lot of, he made various sort of points, which I think got me thinking. And I remember saying on that program itself, I told him that, Ashish, perhaps we need to have another webinar where instead of just problems, we look at solutions. So today I would like to, while we can talk about problems, but I would also like to look at solutions and what solutions we have to offer. Of course, the joke these days is that with the Zoomification of industry and culture and the Zoom culture, designers are left just designing the tops because you don't really need the bottoms anymore. But of course, the areas are a lot more complex. So let me start by asking the first question, and I will I will sort of address Ashish Soni. Ashish, you you were there in the first webinar, so you have the advantage of really taking that bird's eye view. And you mentioned in our last webinar that the current fashion system is no longer working. Okay, that was quite a drastic statement, and of course you supported it in some ways. What exactly does it mean? Okay, for example, is Fashion Week irrelevant today? You mentioned is fast fashion going out of style? So, and what is the replacement? So Ashish, can you come on the line and give us your thoughts on this aspect?
Ashish, you're on mute. So
yeah. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Hello, panelists. Vinod, yes, it's been. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible.
So, yes, a month has passed since we were last Zoomified. I think that, yes, the fashion needed to be recalibrated. And that's definitely happened whether we like it or not. And in more ways than one, people are hopefully thinking that, what are the changes that could help the industry, and what are the things that we weren't doing that we perhaps should be doing. I think here, because a lot of our audience are young students and future designers, hopefully, I think there are two ways of looking at this. One is, of course, which of course affects them, which is where the current industry is and how is it changing moving forward, and also in terms of what are the opportunities that lie in place ahead of them, because even as young designers now, I think when they graduate and they move on into the industry, they will have a different role to play than perhaps a year ago, because a lot of them would need to be far more tech savvy perhaps than they anticipated. All of them would need some, a different level of an entrepreneurial hat where that will affect the way they creatively think. Also, like I said, when we were discussing fast fashion, there was just too much of fashion. We were over consuming. Everyone knows that the garment industry is one of the largest in fact, the second largest polluting industry in the world. Everyone was talking about sustainability, but how many of us were actually practicing it in whatever way possible? I think, it was just those things that word looked really good and we all should have done something about it, but how much we do, I can't really say. I think moving forward, all of us have to, at least for me, for example, as far as my fashion goes, I'm trying to get back to my soul, trying to find that soul, and say that these were the things that were important to me, and perhaps some of them got lost as we went along, and the commerce got into it, and so much other commercial pressures got involved that you sort of kind of lose touch with all of that. And so I'm trying to personally focus and trying to get back to the product and ensure that instead of making, it's not about making those 4 collections and that many shows and this and that, but the idea is perhaps to make some fantastic classics and great product that people truly appreciate buying.
Okay, so you think there is a change in the consumer views also, what the consumer has changed in his expectations?
Well, that's already kind of evident with the way the markets and the consumers have behaved both in the West as well as in India over the last 45 days when things have opened up. Of course, we're only buying things which we need now. And a lot of it has, in terms of product and sales, have shown that people have been wanting to buy classics. People have gone out there and bought a lot of comfort clothing. They've, like you said, everyone's working from home, and so much of that is people have spent so much time at home that one thing that's quite interesting, which was even interesting for me to hear, that a lot of people went out still trying to buy in brick and mortar because it gave them some sense of normalcy in their life, whereas a lot of the other things that we would do normally, we're not doing. So just the fact that you could go into a shop, even if you had to be careful and maintain social distancing and all of that. But a lot of people across the world went in and preferred to shop once things opened in the brick and mortar atmosphere. And that has been somewhat a good sign or a silver lining for us. But in India, I'm sure, like as Tarun would agree, a lot of our businesses revolve around occasions and the wedding business, which involves a large number of people. Therefore, till things ease up, a lot of that buying is not going to happen. And definitely, in terms of the more casual clothing that's sold, where people are socializing just between friends or 8-10 people, dinners, you can't really go and very dressed up to a very close friend's house when you're going for a casual drink.
Yeah. Okay. So if I can read that properly, what in terms of solutions, you of course analyzed it very well. So some of the solutions you're offering is that one, you better be digital savvy, or at least hire people who do, because that is the new sort of mantra, and this is the new tracks that we are riding on. And secondly, you're saying that our idea of product, in terms of our offering, the consumer has changed. So some of our old stories of doing more and more and bigger will just not work now. So we have to be in step with the new consumer, and change ourselves accordingly. Yes. Any questions from anyone else in the panel? That's what okay. Otherwise, I'll move on. Yes, please feel free. Yeah.
We will take the question
In the end.
and answer session.
Okay. Okay.
At the end of
I will next tap on. I'll next tap on Tarun. Tarun has been waiting patiently. Tarun, of course, has been the quintessential designer, and of course, he's made a big name, not only for himself, but he has really developed the industry as such, and which includes not just fashion itself, but also retailing of fashion. He was the person who started Ensom. and of course that made sort of waves in terms of bringing in the new fashion. So Tarun, um, uh, retail stores have been at the heart of the fashion industry because they provide the touch and feel of fashion. Um, and store retailing is very important. I've been a retailer for many decades, so I can understand that. But is going to the future, is store retailing going to be an anachronism? I mean, is it out of place? Because one, it is becoming a Zoom culture, COVID or no COVID, it is becoming a Zoom culture. Where does all this fall in? What does fashion do? What is the future of fashion without this crutch? What is the alternative to store retailing? And yeah.
Well, hi everybody. I'm Tarun. Hi panelists. Hi Ashish. I think we're getting a little too caught up in the current problem, which is we have a global pandemic and we don't have a cure. And everyone has to be very careful because the first 2-3 months we saw the most horrible footage of the kind of chaos in Italy. We saw it in Spain. I think we're still seeing it in parts of North America. I mean, in the United States. And somehow it's taking a slightly different trajectory in India because not that many people seem to be dying, thankfully. But we still have 50,000 new cases a day, and that's not a joke. And
that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. So I think there is a lot of hysteria. And as RC said, that a lot of us deal with occasion wears. And, people don't have the occasions. But I will start to say this, that fashion has to lie and live for and with innovation. And long before, even when Net-a-Porter started, it was scoffed at and people said that, well, nobody could buy high fashion and fitted clothes off the web, but it turned out to be one of the biggest success stories. It started Mr. Porter, it's gone into whole other realms now. So I think the world is too big for us to say it will be X or Y or Z. The reality is all three things are going to coexist. Yes, if there's a pandemic and people are buying pajamas, you don't need to go to a store. But if you want to go out and buy a beautiful bridal, unless you absolutely can't travel, it's part of the whole retail experience that you go and you get pampered and you look at different designer stores. And stores are used to create a world that you take, it's a journey that you take people into a philosophy, into some kind of magic. And if I look at the new concept stores that Vuitton had done, or Dior or Chanel on Dover Street in London, there was so little product for the volume of these amazing stores. But I think there were experiences that you came to and they lingered with you long after you left, so that the next 3 purchases were you to make them online. You still had a sense of that space and then you would go back like a temple. You don't go to the temple every day. You pray often for weeks on your own and then you go back. So I think beautiful stores are a temples to design, to philosophy, to experience. They're moving out of just places that inhabit merchandise into creating whole worlds through, the digital medium. I mean, I'm sure, since we're talking about virtual reality, everyone's scrambling to make their stores into a virtual experience. And I'm sure as that technology gets better, it'll get more and more, popular. But it's one thing if you're buying a bag, if you're buying a suit that you want to get fitted or a beautiful fitted evening dress, I'm not sure that I see a substitute right now for going into the store or having the fitters come to you, both to make a choice and to be fitted properly. So I think all 3 things will exist. I love the fact that I've been forced to, because I think, technologically challenged. I've been forced to use Zoom. I do a whole lot of meetings. I can sit at work. I'm actually sitting up in the mountains. Someone will send me something. I'll click into the embroidery factory. I'll show it to him. In 3 minutes, I do what could have taken me 3 weeks before, because I'd wait, someone would courier something to me, then a khak had be made, then it'd be couriered, then by the time he got it, now it is instant. So we use technology in things like that, but I think the experience of feeling and touching and the other senses besides the eyes, I don't think Zoom and the computer can, at this moment, substitute. Once I think there's a cure and there's a vaccine, I think things will start to go back to another new normal, which will be a balance of both these things. because we've been stuck and we couldn't do Fashion Week, which normally happens, and Bridal Week, we did a big virtual fashion show, which we put out on Instagram. And now we have all the tiny videos. And I'm working on a big fashion film, which will be more of the experience than just a straight runway show. We've got to do this. We saw the impact it had. And brides from all India and all over India and from the UK and US started to call. And that's what we needed right now. Because frankly, as Ashish said, if you're not going to a wedding, I mean, the only people who are shocked, besides casual things that we don't do, are people planning their own weddings. And I must say they're planning with full gusto for November and December, as if they expect a vaccine, a cure, the big there, but everything seems to be coming back. But they do their preliminary work on Zoom, and then they will all fly in and out of Delhi for the day and see me or the other designers that they want to and go back, or whoever they're choosing to see in the company. So while I think technology is fantastic, again, reflecting on what Ashish said, that this downtime forced everyone to go back and find their soul, I couldn't agree more. But something about a soul has to be touched and felt through a combination of your senses that I don't think a simple laptop or a phone in front of you can do fully. So I think really we have to think about everything, that everything's going to have its place. I hope people buy better quality and buy less, because that's the only way we'll make things sustainable. And, you know, old, elegant families, that, you know, sometimes I see people in the 60s and 70s, and they'll tell me with pride, oh, I bought this 35 years back and I had this made on Salvador and I still wear it. We need to go a little back towards that culture instead of this disposable, fast fashion. I don't want to be seen in something again because I'm on Instagram. We need a change in a value system. And the soul searching also meant that people need to go back and question who they are and why they do the thing. So it's so complex, and it's never going to be one solution. And even in just Delhi, there'll be thousands of different kinds of thought groups, because people are at different stages of the product life cycle, their money, new money, old money, value system. But I think there's going to be very good retail, will always be there. Of course, the stores have opened and no one's going to go because everyone thinks it's spreading through the air conditioning. No one's going to go into Emporio unless they have
They're not
to.
going to, exactly.
I mean, why
even
would
if
they
they
go?
open, right?
No one's going to go. I mean, you know, I mean, it's out of the question. I wanted to go to this hotel in Rishikesh and see these doctors, and I've been banned by my family. Said absolutely not. Now, I think there's also a bit of fear psychosis, because I do go to the factory every day. And for people did have fall sick in the beginning, and we mastered how to keep it clean.
But
People
Tarun, I like to point beyond the COVID also. So there's a whole generation, there's a whole generation who are coming up, and they feel comfortable only on Zoom. They don't want to spend so much time visiting a store, parking, and all that. How do you address them?
Well, I think that if you're buying a T-shirt or you're buying a repeat or something, you know, or a pair of sneakers of a brand, you know, you should certainly not have to go in. But I think if you want a new experience, you want to touch and feel things that are new, I think if you're going for your bridal, you're not going to worry about parking. I mean, certainly, you're going to park 20 times if you have to get that fitting correctly. Or anything in the realm of luxury, if you're buying a beautiful necklace, or how do you see how it sits on you? Or a beautiful man's suit or a sherwani getting fitted. I mean, I don't think that once there's a cure, once that vaccine's out, anyone's going to worry about any of this. They're going to forget in 2 weeks. Others will still be worrying about the influenza of a century back, the Spanish flu. It's going to go back. But yes, since everyone's learned to be much more efficient by using much more technology, and you're going to use that where it's this thing. I'm not going to go look at embroidery swatches in the unit. I'm going to check it on my phone and say, take the camera here and I'll be done. And I'll send this to Bareilly and send this to Calcutta. So I'll use it there. But if I want to buy something beautiful that I want, a beautiful sweater, a Bruno Cucinelli, I'm going to go and try it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to worry about the parking. So I think it's going to be based on the product, and things that you don't do so often, you will still make the time for. And things that are more banal and just replacing, I mean, toiletries, all that, you don't need to go.
Okay. No, I get your point that something as complicated, as emotional as wedding clothes, you would want to touch and feel.
Any luxury, there is an emotional connect, or there should be, to things we love.
But now cards are being sold on the net also, by the way. So that's really a new culture which is coming in. We don't know exactly where it is going, but you're saying definitely the new technology will help you in being more efficient, doing your job better.
It makes everything.
I remember that.
I sometimes attend fittings just.
Yeah. Okay, I think.
Sorry, I've lost you. We've lost the
Yeah.
signal.
Okay, we're hearing you. Your voice is, yeah. Now it seems to be working. Yes.
Sorry, you were saying something. You remember?
Yeah. I remember when you opened in Bombay, and you were based in Delhi, and of course, people who are buying couture want to meet you, and you had a what do you call? You had a video phone link with your shop in Bombay, so that you could meet people without being there physically.
Yeah, it's and and this is just moving faster and faster, and it's getting better. And we'll do it. And you don't even need to meet me. But sometimes if there's a problem or you need to attend a fitting, you use this experience of your eye to help out. That's fine. And sometimes people just want to do it, because they feel they're paying and they must meet the designer, whatever it is. But everything's become much more efficient. We're packing in much more now than we could ever have dreamt of before. But shouldn't lose the soul in that process. That's all we're saying.
Okay, in terms of the system that Ashish Soni said, which may be changing or should be changed or something. For instance, your communication or access to your clients is much more immense now with all the new technology. Are things like India Fashion Week passe now, or they lived their life and really there's a new order sort of coming in the whole
Well, I
process of
think
fashion?
the ready-to-wear fashion weeks were already having trouble because they were relying too much on Bollywood celebrities and other sponsors. So the game had changed from the purity of just a lot of the best designers didn't show. So right away, that should tell you something. They either didn't need to show, or maybe the ones who were just doing bridal, it didn't matter. I think that the couture week still had what would have happened last week. Yeah, just this, because it's also that if you're part of a week, even if you're showing digitally, the attraction the week has to attract buyers to tune in. Many individual designers, even if we did a show at India Couture Week, the kinds of people who watched it all over and the way it went, the reach was deeper than if we were showing on our own. Or to get that same reach, we had to make a lot more effort because there'd been a huge PR effort. That's what Fashion Weeks did. They brought people from all over the world in 5 days, and that whole idea is to move digitally. But I think the weeks will continue. I don't think that, again, you can take that away. It's a place where it's not so much about people buying directly, but you're showing an idea to the press, and it should be new ideas, and the press has a chance to touch and feel. And the ramp shows a very powerful medium, if handled well, to communicate an idea. So I don't think these things are going to go away. I don't think it's the same. I mean, we were the first virtual fashion show, so it got a lot of traction. It was well filmed, it was clear. But 3 years on, that's going to be boring. You have to do much more. So we're experimenting with that medium now. And maybe the ramp shows will happen, and there'll be shorter films that will happen concurrently. Instagram will go on. Maybe influencers, different kind of influencers. So a lot more things are going to happen. It's a much more complex web that you will need, and people will choose different things to see what works for their brand.
Okay, thank you, Tarun. If I can sort of understand what you're saying is that we don't have to sort of beat our chest at the moment. Things are going to somewhat settle in, but yes, there are changes happening, and these are technological, and these are very helpful in terms of making us more efficient and more able to reach our customers. And this will be part of our things. And of course, you agree with Ashish that perhaps you need to, designers need to look at their own soul and see where does...
If they haven't so far, they're going to do it. But only constant is change, and technology moves you at a much faster rate, and we better deal with it. Everyone has to find their own solution.
Okay, that's a warning. We better deal with it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me move over to Hemant Sagar. I actually, my coordinator just informed me that I have forgotten to make a formal invitation and list all your credits, basically, both Ashish and Tarun. Of course, I think you're so well known that that is not so much of a lapse on my part. I now move over to Hemant. Hemant, again, is a very close friend of mine. He has had he has the best of both worlds. He's half German and half Indian. Okay, and he straddles. In fact, he's sitting in Berlin right now, and he's going to talk to us from there. Um, just in terms of a background, he's been a student of design and dressmaking. He started his career as an apprentice in Germany in the 70s and followed by Paris, where he joined the École de la Chambre syndicale de couture parisienne. Okay, and he's of course the co-founder of Leo Cornet Hemant, an Indo-French fashion house, which is again quite unique. Um, and he has also recently developed other labels like jeans and Ayurganic, which are based on sustainable practices. So, Hemant, good to have you on board. We have talked in the past on many issues. Today, I would like to talk to you since you straddle two continents. Are the issues and problems that we are having in India currently, are they similar to that in Europe? Are there some best practices in Europe that we should hear about, which we can incorporate in what we do? Yeah, Hemant?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and hello everyone. Hello panelists, really nice to be with you. Yeah, well, sitting in Berlin and seeing the way it is right now, I would say it's worse here than in India because
Really?
occasion wear is not a topic at all in Europe. It is also to be said that over the last 15 or 20 years, luxury sportswear has become such a fantasy that you don't really need to have so-called occasion wear. And tradition per se in Europe hardly exists. Traditional clothing doesn't exist since easily. I mean, I've never known it. It was before my time. Traditional clothing that could be assimilated to a country or a region or a way of being just don't exist. So the fantasy goes more into what you call daily wear. If you look at phenomena like Giorgio Armani, who made his name with day wear, that is what I mean you would regard as the real fashion statement here in Europe, with very minute changes from season to season. Also, what you call fashion is that little change of 5% of the perception of a garment from one season to another, because if it's more, it would probably shock people and would not be acceptable. And that's where haute couture comes in, which I did for 20 years from 80s to 2000. I did, I mean, I can relate to the occasion and wedding wear industry in India from that level, because it's equally worked on and has all these industrious procedures that go into it, except that they're of course much more based on tradition in India than anywhere else in couture. Also, what Ashish mentioned in the beginning, that the whole system is being rethought. It is to be underlined that people like Chanel are not thinking of doing that at all. They think that their old system is the best and it's going to stay, and they're not going to change anything about it. And a few other companies, which I'm not quite sure which ones, have decided to go that way also. So it looks as if the whole market is going towards do what you want and what you believe in, and what you believe in most will be the most convincing for your clients. It's a bit of a it's like a Facebook generation of designers who each one will have his own way out and will have his way of addressing himself to his clients, and they will like it. So one client will love to have 6 collections a year, and the other client will think it's great to be so slow in fashion that there's only one piece that they could consider. I don't think there's any rules anymore. And I think that the occasion wear here in Europe for sure has become more of a dressy way of upcycling your wardrobe. For sure, there's absolutely no trace of anything dressy. The operas are closed, the theaters are closed. There are no dinners at all. I've been in Berlin now for 10 days, and I've literally only sat at home with few friends, and did not even go downtown. Drove through on the way in and saw a few windows from the taxi, and didn't find anything very much exciting actually to talk about. And everyone just seems to be thinking about their health and about the future of society. That's what we are at right now.
So you're saying people are still experimenting. They seem to be in a bit of a daze. Of course, down the line when things settle in, what do you think will happen down the line if you can envisage 2-3 years down the line? Is the fashion becoming less in proportion in terms of a person's mind? How is the customer changing, consumer changing? Is fashion becoming less important? And
I think as fashion becomes less important, like Tarun was saying, as it becomes less important, it becomes more important for certain people. So you'll always have that flock of birds of paradise who need to put pink and yellow feathers on their head and express themselves that way. But then you have the mass of people who, when you see how the way people are dressed on the streets, it's gray, black, brown. It's very practical. It's a lot of athleisure. It's sporty clothes. It's comfortable clothes, and the mass of people are dressing in cheap clothes, which is just an economic reflection of what's happening right now. Too many people out of jobs. Too many people wondering what the future is going to bring. I think that's basically what it's at. I don't see a very, very strong. I mean, I would probably have to go to Paris and have a look what's happening there, but it doesn't seem to be very different there either. Everyone seems to be waiting for the next thing and quite uncertain about the future. Also, a big attraction of European fashion was to do weekend travel. I mean, if you went to Paris, you'd fly over to Rome and check out the shops there just for the weekend. Or you go to London, or you go to Berlin, or you go to a certain place like that. All of that's not happening because travel, I mean, 3 out of 5 flights are canceled right now. Masks are everywhere. So I think the actual fashion article right now is face masks.
Okay, yes, people are using that as coordinates and whatnot.
Yes.
And so forth. Okay, so you're saying it is still sort of not very clear how things are going to happen, but definitely there is a disruption, and how it settles in, we don't know at the moment. But you did mention, I don't know if I can push the point, that there is a polarization. There is, which is drive, and perhaps it'll happen in India. There will be it's like some people are being driven at the upper end, the couture, the very specialized sort of thing. But increasingly, there will be a smaller percentage of that because they'll be more expensive and will be more difficult, and you have to all that.
Well, you know,
the other end is going towards the mass, of course, with fashion content, but really, which at the moment, as you're saying, is athleisure and all.
Well, what Europe does not have is the respectful relationship to elder generations. Here, everyone is at the same front, so we don't have this pleasing of generations, and we don't have the celebration of generations in an event like a wedding. If someone gets married, well, I mean, I just heard of people who got married and could not even invite their own witnesses. So there's not a big question about anything right now as far as celebrations are concerned. And dressing up means wearing something which is clean and nice, but it doesn't really mean making any kind of a traditional fashion statement.
Right. Okay, so on the business side, personally, in terms of your business, what sort of problems have you faced, and how have you tried to overcome them?
Well, you know, I did couture from 1980s to 2000, and I felt it was dying at that time already. And it was my biggest wish to actually get into manufacturing my own collections. I didn't even know that online could exist at that time. It wasn't really in 2000. That it just started about in 2004 or 5, and that's when I started making a daily wear collection, because I felt that was what was the niche for me at least in India. And so we've specialized in that, and it was a very, very long way. We started the formula by opening 3 successive trial shops with trial collections in it, one in Pune, and 2 in Delhi at that time.
These are your new labels and all that you have introduced?
Yeah, we tried out. Yeah, we tried the first attempt to jeans and what we would call laboratory research of garments. It had to have a certain price, and it was very surprising for us that, well, we suddenly had to place ourselves in a certain so-called competition with Zara, at least price-wise, because that's what people would be spending for day clothes. Very unlike Europe, where sportswear, luxury sportswear can cost a fortune, and people will wear it in the day, and they get excited about it because they're making a fashion statement, not just on a red carpet and not just at the opera, but all day while they're wearing it. Of course, you need guts to do that, and plus you place yourself more like a fashion icon or a person who's parading out something new, which would be a novelty that is, of course, advertised by the shows and by magazines and all of that, which is something which I never, that's not a system that I could see, at least I couldn't see it in India, with what we call fashion being actually much more occasion wear.
Okay, so Hemant, what I can make out is that you're saying there are major issues, but there were trends already, at least in Europe, away from couture, more into threat and other things, and also with the new thinking, and you have embraced that, and actually technology and the changes help in that. It is
That's right.
easier to reach that. So whatever changes are happening, which have been accelerated by COVID-19, are actually for the benefit. Okay, as long as you embrace the new changes, the new selections which are happening, and which is where you have sort of placed yourself. That's very
right.
interesting. That is very interesting. So you don't need to fight the changes; you just have to ride it. Okay.
But you see, I arrived in India in 2000, and I already set up an accounting system that was suddenly imposed when the demonetization came up, and for me it was like, oh, that's an old hat. I did that 10 years ago. So it was like. Maybe I was lucky, quote unquote, to close down my business in France and come and set up a new one in India, because I could look at all the latest developments. It's like, for example, in our production chain right now, we've introduced, we're working on artificial intelligence so that we can meet all our production cycles. Of course, all of the cycles have been jumbled up again with COVID, but it is a very exciting procedure to see that machine technology is going to become a very, very big topic for us. And the next thing that's going to come up is going to become something international, which will be, I think, tangible within 7 to 10 years, is that I think manufacturing in California will be cheaper than in India, because we're going to have a lot of subots, i.e. robots, making the clothes. So it means that our so-called cheap labor will have to be rethought also, and we'll have to look at the whole chain of how it does. So what we're working on right now is to make our carbon footprint absolutely visible, and to make sure that we can trace the garments from the plant to the consumer in a total transparency, and including a green accountability accounting system also, which we want to have ready by in 3 years from now.
Right, Hemant. So what I can understand is that you're saying you've seen nothing yet. Be ready for more changes and all that. Okay.
Oh yes, very big, yeah.
Okay, I will now move on to Kevin. Okay, we actually met up with Kevin. We were dazzled by his, he had a virtual presentation of a fashion show, which was very lifelike. And that's how we bumped into Kevin, and we realized he had a fantastic background. Okay, I think someone needs to put their mic on mute.
Can I request every?
Now everybody's on mute, I think. Yeah.
So where is the sound coming from?
Hi, everyone. Could I please ask you to put mute? Everybody excepting participant. Please. Ashok sir, are you online? Can you just help me with this, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Yes, Kevin, sorry.
No worries. Good afternoon, everybody.
Okay, let me just introduce you. I said we were dazzled by your fashion show, lifelike fashion show.
Thank you.
And Kevin is a co-founder of a business called Kustu Studio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crystal
And
Studio.
this operates out of Brussels, Amsterdam, and Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And he has done work for companies like Cartier, Swarovski, Lufthansa, and so forth. So, Kevin, you are, I hope you are our savior. Okay.
Well,
I hope there's a button to press and it'll solve all our problems. What lies beyond the horizon? What can we expect which will help us?
I think that Tarun said it as well, very well. Actually, I believe the future will be a hybrid model. You still need to have the brick and mortar stores. It's so important to have, like Tarun mentioned, as the temples. It is still an amazing place to go to trigger all your senses, to feel, to hear, to smell. It is a complete experience, and you can't just resolve that one with just an Instagram stream or a live stream on YouTube or a Zoom call. Everybody's sick of the Zoom calls these days. You, you you have to have like a hybrid model where you have the connection between the physical one and the digital one. And we're working on such thing right now for Prada, for the Haute Couture fashion show in September, where we will send out a box with a VR headset in, as well with pieces of the garments of the fabrics that will be seen into the VR with a perfume in it, so you can trigger all the senses and it becomes a multi-sensory experience. It's not just a digital experience where you watch like a virtual fashion show. It will be, sorry for the surrounding noise by the way, it will be a multi-sensory experience where you will really be indulged in the whole magic of the fashion designer itself. And then it's a combination of a 3D world and real life models, but within a complete magical surroundings. But it's sadly it's not just a magical button to push on and you resolve all the problems. And I can imagine for a lot of fashion brands these days, they have the high rents for their fashion stores. They have a lot of costs coming in every month without don't having the earnings as they had before. To make such a new investment in a digital way, it's not an easy task to do, and you have to have, like, sorry for my expression, big balls on it to do that. And the people that are doing it, that still has a cash reserve, they're gonna rise or be very creative with other ideas, because it doesn't have to be very expensive to have an amazing digital experience. It doesn't have to be very expensive. You just have to be creative on that part. But it's as well as Tarun said as well. It's here in Europe. I live in Antwerp, in the fashion capital of Europe. It's mass hysteria. I don't know if the news came by to India, but Belgium is Antwerp itself is now the new Corona hotspot of Europe. It's insane, the measurements the government is taking. It's insanity for companies to just to relive or to be closed again, to close the shops. People can't go on the street, and if it's open again, people are so scared to go on the street that they will stay out of the stores. So for now, there has to be a new solution, but I think there's coming a new normal where digital and physical is merging to each other. We call it physical, whatever. Digital, where a physical store and a digital store comes together. But that's what we believe at Cousteau as well. It's going to be a very hybrid model for the future, and that's the thing that's going to survive. But I really don't believe. I would be very sad actually if bricks and mortar stores would be disappearing, because I don't believe in the fashion stores as in a Primark or an H&M or a Zara fast casual. That sucks. You can buy that online. It's very easy to do, and fast casual is destroying the whole economy as well. But and as in an experience store of Chanel or an other couturier in Paris, it's an experience where you can meet the designers, where you can talk about a new suit or whatever. Your suit to be a suit on made to measure in Bond Street in London, it's an experience. You take 3 days for it, and you come back like 6 or 7 times to have your suit be measured. It's an experience. When you do that online, yeah, you can measure everything yourself, fill it in on an online form, and then you have like your made to measure suit. But it isn't the same. It's never the same as in going to the real store and have the experience of the real magicians, as I call them, the fashion designers, to have a suit made to measure, for instance. You're on mute. You're on mute. I don't hear you.
Mr. Cole,
Okay.
you're on mute.
Yeah. So, okay, fine, that is fine. But there is a very relentless movement of technology, because what we see even in movies is that you can have 3D pictures, you can have meetings of people where they're sitting on chairs in 3D, and it is all virtual. Do you see this happening in the next few years? Perhaps a 3D virtual store where you can walk through.
It is already happening. It is
already happening. Okay.
Yeah, you can already do that for certain brands, mostly for shoes and bags. For clothes as well, it's still very hard to do. You saw the fashion show to make the 3D garments. It's very, very, very intense work to make one piece of, like, for a shirt, for instance, to make it in 3D. To have, like, you see my wrinkles here, you see the light falling in. In 3D, that's a very, very complex, very expensive.
I see. As of now.
Thing to design. As of now, yeah, it will change as well a lot with AI and all these kind of things, and new cameras and 3D measurement cameras or whatever. It will be changing a lot in the coming in the coming months and years, definitely, and the quality will be up in an extreme amount of time. As soon as there's new headsets and new devices, the quality will go up, and it will be more integrated in a normal lifestyle. Same as with augmented reality, then to have on your cell phone a model walking around in your living room. But that's still very gimmicky, you know. It's still a big gimmick to do and to use. We don't see that much conversion of it when we integrate something in that for a brand. You don't see that much of conversion. People do it. They maybe post on Instagram, and then a few other people post on Instagram that it's funny as a model walking around in their own living room. We don't see that much of rise of sales when you do that.
But okay, from the other side, is there among the new generation, is there a virtual culture? Because I run a lot. There are a lot of young people I deal with, and they're forever speaking. They're meeting, they're having groups, and they're having live sort of runs where they're talking to each other for an hour or a half an hour, and so it's almost like culture coming in, where people are very comfortable with that among the new young people, and each time technology improves, they just clap it up.
Yeah, definitely, but it's fast casual, as I said as well. They will do it for fast casual, to buy a shirt of $20 or $30, or maybe up to $100. But it won't be to the clothes that Soni is making or Tarun is making. It's something completely different. That's still experience clothes, and you can't put that in a digital experience.
Okay, we haven't crossed that. We haven't crossed that boundary that you're saying, so all this technology is helping right now clothes more of fast fast clothes, so to say, or more of bread, or at the moment?
But no, that's not what I'm saying. I say for the future and for the younger generation, it will be a lot more fast casual. But the young generation, not that with us in Europe, they don't have the the same amount of money to buy haute couture. They will buy something on Mr. Porter, but then yeah, try it at home and then send it back. And for me as well, to buy a suit of $3,000 when I buy it online, it's not the same experience. When I give that amount of money to my clothes, I want an experience. Well, I want the experience when I give a lot of money to something. When I buy an expensive car, I don't want to buy it online. You said it as well. You see in China a lot of e-commerce on cars. It's insane, but it's as well for the cheaper cars. It's not the expensive cars. When you want to buy a Ferrari or you want to buy a Porsche, you want to go to a dealership and you want to experience that car. It's same with fashion. Same with high fashion. You can compare the luxury brands a lot with it. If, for instance, the Cartier case that we did for Cartier, it was a case for the Santos watch. That's a watch that's going between $5,000 and $250,000. When you're giving that amount of money to a watch, you don't want to buy it and click, click, click online and get it sent over to you. And oh yeah, well, I have it. That's not the thing you want. It's something you live to that day. You work very hard for that day. You go to the store. It's an experience. You get pampered. You get a glass of champagne, and it's all these kind of things. And this kind of experience, you can't translate that in a digital experience.
Right.
You just can't. Yeah. And digital experiences now, as what we're doing for luxury brands as well, it's a lot for PR value, a lot of for being on top of mind for communication. But conversion, it's very, very, very hard to do. And I know I speak against my own shop, but it is still very important what we do for certain brands to be on top of mind, to be forefront of technology, to be busy with innovation, to just experiencing it, to just try it. Because if you only starting in 5 years from now, if you haven't done anything digital, you will be run over through very, very, very quickly. So people need to experience something right now. Need to do something right now to be well known with the medium and what it can do for you. To go in 5 years in a full throttle or full speed, or in 2 years we don't know anything. Nobody had expected this COVID-19 thing as well. See what for a shit show we're living in right now. It's insane. So yeah.
You know, if I may, there's something I want to ask Kevin in continuation to what he was just saying.
Okay.
Hi, Kevin.
Yeah.
Hi.
Kevin, you know what you just finished off saying in terms of yes, that I've been seeing everything that's been happening digitally, especially over the last month or so, starting from when Paris did the Couture Week, fully digital, and then it moved on to the London shows and the men's shows and all of that, which they did digitally. And yes, when you know, the first couple of days, in fact, I was actually logging on live and trying to see, especially the brands that I respect and like, to see what they're doing. But that's exactly my question to you. That you know, if we talk about the show Week in Paris, I'm sure a lot of the shows you saw, most of them for me felt exactly like what you were saying, that they were more a PR exercise. I understand that there was very little time because that was the first digital event right after the COVID break. But as you saw, most of it was short films or short presentations.
Yeah, it was so stupid. Yeah.
I mean, so I was lost for words. That you know, these are big brands with big budgets, perhaps with the exception of Dior, which still made, at least it looked like a long, long advert, which was interesting. But the rest of it left me, you know, dumbfounded. So
definitely.
You know, given what you're doing, say and like you rightly said, it needs deep pockets. It's not that every brand can easily afford to venture out that way.
No,
but
definitely.
Say I had all the money in the world and I wanted to do something, I would really get something. And I saw those things that people have been pitching to us, like you said, about the models walking in your living room and this and that. And I agree with you. It's very gimmicky. So I think there need to be some very interesting solutions that need to be found which the consumers will relate to. Because, in fact, a few days ago, I thought I was the only one, sort of not happy with the way things rolled out digitally. And I was reading somewhere that there was a study done, and over the last 2 months, whatever we've seen, most of the consumers have not really liked it. It's not something that's gone down well.
No, definitely not. I follow you completely. It's the same for us. We pitch a lot to fashion designers, but there's a lot of things that we say as well. No, we're not going to do that. It's a gimmick, and when you pay a lot of money for a gimmick, you're not satisfied. Your customers will not be satisfied. You will not be satisfied. We don't have a satisfied customer, and when we don't have a satisfied customer, we get a bad name, and we only want good names. We only want a good name, of course, in the world. I haven't seen yet a very, very good execution of a digital event, not in fashion.
This is exactly what I was saying.
Not for watch launches, not for events, for nothing actually. And I don't say we have the Holy Grail in hand for the future. We're working on something that's merged the physical world and the digital world. That will be launching in September. That's going to be great. I'm not saying, I don't have a big ego. I'm not saying that's going to be the most wow factor or whatever. And the thing we did for Hanifa, the one we got to know each other. That's really, really cool, but it's a gimmick. Sorry to say, it's a really big gimmick. I'm still very amazed on the things we did on such a short notice. But it's good for the name of Hanifa as in the fashion world, but it won't convert much to sales. And the thing you want as well as a fashion designer is attention, press attention, but then you want to convert that into sales because you invest a lot of money in it, and you want a conversion in sales. Otherwise, all your investments are money down the drain actually. So. And for
I
that,
guess maybe what you were saying, that maybe we just have to wait for the actual phygital, the word you use, which is the buzzword right now, is the combination of physical and digital. I guess till we collectively get that phygital right, it's going to be the digital experience the way it is currently. For me, it was frankly boring.
The Paris Fashion Week, it was boring. Watch all the short movies. It was. I watched some brands as well. The ones that I follow or we were pitching to, I was watching it. They spend a crazy amount of money on the short movies. Some of them, it's completely insanity. And what they have, it's nothing. It's just another short movie. It's another brand experience, kind of like. I really love the things that Burberry are doing. Completely opposite of the old-fashioned. Pattern they were known for. They're really going into the digital world in a big CGI, crazy Mars expedition like world with their models. That's something that I like. They have the balls, they have the budgets, they're doing something different with Kylie Jenner as well. I don't know if you saw it. It's really amazing. That's what I like. It's an old-fashioned brand that's going in a complete opposite digital experience. I don't say they have the magic key, but they're trying to. They're experimenting with it and with the medium as well. That's why I say I don't think we have to wait for it. I think we have to invest some money in it and digital experiences to get the feel of it, to get to know the medium, to get to see where you can go to. But there is no holy grail yet for a complete digital experience. Definitely not. No,
thank you, Kevin. So I think what I can understand is that technology has still some distance to go to make that crucial sort of change. But on the other hand, I would think that there would be a lot of investment going in it. And the way technology is moving, it'll be a matter of months, perhaps a year or 2 years, where there will be a substantial sort of growth in this side. So,
I had a question from Kevin. Yes. As an educator, do you see us teaching this kind of technology-led display to our students?
I definitely think so. I definitely think you will have to need a college of it to just showcase what has been done to the students, to just open their minds to, and not only from fashion, but only from different um, from different sectors like automotive or high luxury watches or private jet experiences, whatever, to open up their
But if you see this experience not being very real and not appealing to the masses, do you still see a point in us going through incorporating something like this in our curriculum and teaching it to students?
I don't see it as a class of a whole year and every week you have a 2-hour class. No, it's a guest college. You can do it a week, and you can have people like me or like Soni or like Tarun talking about their experience or what it is, what they did with experimenting with digital stuff. But I think you will need to do that in your curriculum, definitely. You will. I think the COVID-19, I saw it a lot here in Europe as well. It will be changing the whole school, the whole school environment, the way you teach students, the way you entertain students, the way you inspire students. That has to be changed a lot. I don't know how it is in India, but with us, it's very old-fashioned. It's very old-fashioned teachers. It's very old-fashioned state of mind, and you only have like 1 or 2 professors if you're lucky to have that digital way of thinking, or the forward way of thinking. And I don't think you can have that. Excuse me?
I think we are all adapting to the changes. It's not easy, but we have.
No, it's definitely not easy. No. But it's good that you're doing things like this and get international people speak towards the students. It's a very good thing. But I think you will have to incorporate that in your curriculum as well. Definitely.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, thank you, Kevin, for giving us a comprehensive sort of situation report on how far technology has gone and how far short it is still over there. But I think we all agree that technology is an integral part now of anything that we do in fashion, certainly. And that brings me on to the other side of what we are bringing in today is the fashion education side. And if fashion designers have to adapt and change and look at how things are forming, so does fashion education, because people are, we have in fact in India, thousands of people who are in the fashion stream. How should fashion education, I think some of the comments Kevin made already is that a lot of the teaching staff today are still in the old ways of thinking. They do not think in terms of digital, they do not think in terms of communication, and so forth. So I would like to call Mamta Garg. She's the head of department for Kulachi Hansraj. She's had a long experience and nurtured hundreds of students and who have sort of gone through the educational process and gone and entered the fashion design industry. And she's been a mentor for graduates and postgraduates as well. So Mamta, I would like to ask you, because I think a lot of people from the industry, including people in fashion, have got rattled in terms of COVID, although we are trying to look beyond that also. So I would like to start by asking you, yes, I would like to start by asking you, what is the mood among fashion students today? What are their fears in terms of the things that have been changing? And how do we address these fears?
There are absolutely no fears. Hello, everyone. I was listening to all of you with great concentration. To my surprise, this lockdown, it has taught me a lot, and my students are nowhere hopeless. In the beginning for a few weeks, they felt very bad. It took a lot of adjustments. Their parents had to adjust. We teachers had to adjust. As you know that I have been handling fashion department. We teachers really made it very effortful on our part, that we took lot of efforts, and even parents took lot of efforts. Students, they tried their level best to cope up with the syllabus. They started studying. And fashion students, Gulbhash is not allowing me to show the videos. Fashion students have done a wonderful job. And as a teacher teaching class 11th and 12th in India, the concern of the students is more towards career than fashion industry. Right now, they are more bothered about their next year. So we kept telling them that be patient, nothing wrong will happen, everything will be normal. And to my surprise, they listened to us. They were very patiently doing all the work which we were giving in our online classes. And all the students, they submitted their work on time. The students who have passed this year, class 12th, 2020, they were really worried about their careers, their admissions. They were really worried about the entrance test they had to appear in. So we had to tell them nothing wrong is going to happen. As a teacher, we are not into industry. As a teacher, we have to show our students always the positive side, that nothing wrong will happen, nothing wrong will happen to the economy. Maybe it is wrong, but we are doing it. We are making our students believe that you are under our guidance, under our shadow, under the shadow of your parents. So don't worry. Coming time is going to be good. COVID will be over. Because, teenagers, we are dealing with teenagers. They are very, very susceptible to all these depressions and all this loneliness and all these things. And it's sometimes, it is very, very difficult for us when a student texts to us at midnight that I'm not interested in studying. I will not come to the class tomorrow. Some students, they are saying, ma'am, we are not understanding anything in the online classes. They are useless. We are missing our friends. One student, one day he called me and said, I think, ma'am, my brain has stopped working and I've developed some disorder. And believe me, it took 7 days. I talked to him every day, 1 hour, to make him believe his brain is fine. Then we had to give them various fashion activities. If Gulbhash allows me, you people are seeing fashion in the whole world. You people are facing different type of problems. We teachers, being head of the department, my job is to sequence them, to bind everyone, the faculty, the students, the parents, everybody has to be, none of them has to be sad. Their sadness has had to be dealt. And then the belief that coming year they will study, they will join the college, they will have a good career, don't worry, economy will boost. And one more thing I would like to discuss, parents are really worried about the fees. They are worried what will happen to the career of their children, because maybe they won't be able to pay much fees to the colleges. So as a director of the institute, I would request you to do something about it. You can take monthly fees or quarterly fees, something like that, because I am an educationist and my only worry is that what my students want, what is their requirement. As far as syllabus and curriculum is concerned, it has to be changed if it continues, if the colleges are not opening. Fashion designing for me is more of a career than an industry. This lockdown, this COVID has increased my responsibilities. And I had to sometimes, show even the wrong picture to the students and tell them nothing wrong will happen. by Diwali, everything will be all right. Markets will be up, economy will be up. Your parents will have a lot of money. Don't worry. You will have admission. And whatever possible we could do. The fashion designing students, their worry is, whether now fashion industry will give any jobs or not. So I told them that even engineering students, even medical students, all the students are facing the same problem. Why only fashion you're talking about? Why you have doubts? Rather, I told them that roti, kapda, makan, that is bread, house, and clothes. That is our primary requirement. So these industry will always work. They will work at a different level, but they will always work. This is what, I had to tell them. So as an educationist, my worry is future. My worry is this year should not waste. My worry is that all the education institutes which are providing fashion as a course, which are providing fashion courses and fashion graduations and fashion post-graduations, they must do something with the curriculum. And because studies goes on, you can't stop the child from studying. You can't stop the education. Whatever stops, it's primary. If eating is important, education is also important. If health is important, education is also important. Because once a student loses interest in the subject, they may probably lose their whole set of mind. The set of mind should, fashion students, they're very active. See, they usually go to exhibitions and all. So we had to prepare them for blogging. We had to tell them to be a YouTuber. So we had to prepare them that there are, if COVID exists, students are asking me one question in every class. One, when will the schools open and the colleges will open? Second, ma'am, will it improve? Will COVID go? Will we ever go to markets and will we ever move out? So, and when they worry about their careers, because their parents have stopped earning now, most of them, their family income has gone down, they have big questions about their fees, then I have to tell them various careers, I have to shift them towards being a YouTuber. I have to shift them towards being a blogger. I have to shift them towards being a fashion journalist. And see, you are talking about this casual wear. I, as a teacher, took this assignment 3 months back when lockdown started. In all the assignments, we were giving examples of casual wear. We were giving examples of mask making. Even one of my students, he came up with an idea of this kit which doctors are wearing. He said, "Man, can I work? Can I do something? I want to make this clothes which doctor wearing made up of cotton so that they don't feel hot in this." I said, "Very good. You can do something about it." So as a teacher, everybody on the panel, I would request you, you are big shot people in fashion industry. I request you, or this is my handfold request, please do something to make students positive. Please. The new generation, these teenagers, they have their whole life in front of them. They are becoming negative. We have to do something to make them positive. We have to start new courses, maybe 3-month course, 1-year course, maybe some online course, maybe some part-time course. We have to change the curriculum. The fee structure has to be changed. Everything. You people, you have big responsibility. You are big people, all big shot people on the panel. This is the time I am giving you as a request as well as a challenge that please do something for the students, because at this age, if you look back when you were 18, what was your greatest worry? One thing that they are caged in the house, their physical life, their natural life is totally destroyed. In India, see, in foreign countries, you have a lot of open space. You have here in metropolitan cities where students opt for fashion. See, small town people are not opting for fashion.
So,
They are not opting for.
Mamta, I hear your point, and as you said that it is our duty to really
Yeah.
build confidence among students because they have been rattled by what has been happening with COVID-19. They do not understand that, and perhaps the industry should be also playing a greater role. Perhaps
Yeah.
designers, perhaps Ashish or others, perhaps the
You should create
FTCI.
new courses.
So they should look at, first of course, building confidence in terms of talking to them. And secondly, in terms of whether courses need to be adapted or changed according to the new situation. And that brings me to my final panelist, Mrs. Bajaj, Jaivani Bajaj, who is from our sponsors. She is chief mentor of International College of Fashion. She's had an illustrious career. She's from Delhi University, where she has done small business management and specialized in marketing, apparel merchandising, and production. And of course, she has been a big guide for students at the International College of Fashion. And of course, she has faced issues very much like Mamta. So I would like to ask you a slightly different question, carrying on forward from what Mamta said. Is there a need to adapt the curriculum, which has been going on for decades, I would say? Is there a need to adapt in terms of the new realities and the changes that are happening?
Thank you, Mr. Kaul. Thank you, panelists, for being here. I think, I've been jotting down points very diligently because the feedback that we are receiving, even though it's a conversation, but it has very valuable feedback coming in from the industry experts itself. So when we talk about the curriculum, I would like to first say that I think the fashion industry is going nowhere. The education sector is going nowhere. We are here to stay because, we've seen ups and downs in the economy, in the whole environment since centuries. But I think the fashion has been constant for all of us, whether it is high street fashion or it's couture. Everything has been here to stay. And so is education. Like Mamta ji just said that, education is a primary need. It will stay forever. And especially undergrad education is something that Indians are so passionate about. I don't think any of our kids, just end their education at a school level. They like to pursue their undergrad. They like to do their post-graduation. So what we have to do as educators, we have to synthesize both fashion and the education. And when it comes to curriculum, I feel yes, definitely. If I say no, the curriculum does not need to change, I would sound very, very regressive. And that would mean the end of, me being as an educator or the institute itself. We have to be very innovative. We have to bring in new concepts, like what I've just learned that, displaying through technology is something that we need to incorporate. A very, very important part of the curriculum that we would be working on is design thinking, where design thinking is not limited to, say, a solution. It's more process oriented. So, there would be different steps involved in that. So we would guide our students to go from conducting interviews with different clients, with different stakeholders, analyzing their needs, their problems, taking out inferences from those interactions, and then building on a prototype. What is it exactly that the customer is demanding? And then retesting, testing, and then rebuilding the prototypes. So the whole idea of, just teaching the curriculum, whereas like, you have to learn about the history of fashion, where you have to build on a certain product based on your liking. It has to be more design oriented in thought. So that is what we would like to bring in as a change in the curriculum. where we know that, fashion is something which is very hands-on. It's application oriented. People have to be there. So the dilemma is how to deliver it online. But we will work on solutions. We will have contactless delivery systems where we figure out ways of, say, making classes for pattern making or draping or things which are more hands-on, more tech involved. So we do understand that this is a disruption in the industry, but we have to adapt to this disruption. And like everybody in the panel said, that this is going to continue. It is not like a one-off situation. Yes, it will end. And we are very positive and hopeful of that. There will be people who still look at couture. There will be people who still look for high street fashion. There will be people who still go for casual dressing. So we have to be the best. We have to train our students to be the best and confident of what their thought process is all about and what the customer needs.
Okay, thank you, Vani. Questions? Any questions from the audience? Any other questions?
Good evening, everyone. Yes, we have a few questions here with us.
Yes, Didi.
And these are very common questions that we get asked every time we have a session like this. So the first one is, of course, the future of students, because everything is changing in the light of COVID-19. So they basically want to know if, going ahead, opening a brand of their own and having a label of their own is going to be better, or working with export houses, fashion houses is going to be a better decision for them. So that's the first one there.
Okay, you want to answer that, Ashish?
Yeah, sure. See, firstly, going back to what Mamta and Vani were discussing, that yes, please, I want to re-show the students that this is a disruption, right? It's a disruption to all our lives. It's not just the students' lives who got disrupted. And yes, it's been mentally challenging, not just for you young guys. It's mentally challenging for all of us, sitting at home, locked up, not being able to do much. Finally, we're stepping out of our closed door environment. So it's been mentally tough on everyone. So please understand that, and that the fact that this is not a forever thing, right? Yes, it will change the description of the new normal, but it's not the end of the fashion industry. And therefore, it's not the end of your future. It's just a blip. It's a disruption that will make us readapt, and we have to recalibrate. And different opportunities will come our way. It's not as if only these things, we will only have to live the rest of our lives focused on, based on how, for instance, we are often discussing, as soon as there's a vaccine out, will everything go back to the exact normal that we were used to? So, you never know. That's 6 months away or a year away at the most. So it's, that's nothing in terms of a student's life. And then to answer your question specifically, that, because the timing of this is pushed so many fashion brands, either, under the we will completely finish them off. There will be a lot of, readjustments that people will be making to their products. So I would suggest it's a very good time for young students to come to observe and learn what's happening in the industry. How did existing brands come out of this in a very successful manner? Therefore, I would suggest to all young designers this is not the most opportune time to launch their own label. This is the time to work within the industry, whether it's with designers or with export houses or with e-tailers or with magazines, because there's going to be so many options, or with people like Kevin, for example, where there's so much fashion synergy that's going to happen, taking AI into the fashion world and the other way around, that there are going to be many, many more opportunities for you guys as you exit and finish your program and get into the industry. So my advice would be this is the best time to sort of learn and adapt, because none of that can be taken away from you. And a lot of that will help you in your careers as you move forward.
So Ashish, to add to that, you'll be happy to know that most of our programs, we have built in a sort of an internship for a year. So once they finish their curriculum, they go out into the industry as interns, as per their liking. So if they specialize, if they want to specialize working under designers, or they want to specialize working under, as merchandisers, or under somebody like Kevin, we give them that opportunity, and they have like a year to learn the real world working before they actually decide whether they want to start a label of their own, or want to still have a couple of more years of experience working under somebody.
So that's fantastic. I think that's a great idea, because a year working in a professional environment really grooms you to, to put your best foot forward when you go out there, whether you after that want to break out on your own or want to continue within that organization or a bigger organization. So I think that's a great
if you feel like taking the risk, if you have the capital, you have the passion, then why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there are lots of queries on how the industry, fashion industry, is going to change.
Okay, well.
So our whole discussion has been around that.
Around that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Priti ma'am, can we have the next question, please?
Yes, ma'am. Tanisha wants to ask, how will the future of forecasting be? And also, as a designer, I'm sure your trend strategies must have changed. What are your design priorities in terms of wellness, comfort, limitarianism, and keeping all of those things in mind?
Okay. Well, do we have Hemant there?
Yes, Hemant should take that.
You want to take that question, Hemant?
Sure.
About
to be practical, right now in the fashion field, all the trends have gone kind of have just kind of disappeared, for the simple reason that everybody has found out that they have such a lot of stock that it's very difficult to start to just skip a season after having made everything. So let's just be a bit honest about this. So I think that we're entering a new phase of express who you are, what you are, and how you feel about it. And I think that the economy has to come before the expression, because if you don't survive, there ain't no fashion. So it's kind of very, very important to have a kind an expression of yourself and create your own trends, I think. And in the end of the day, that's what people actually expect from you when you are a designer.
Right. Finally, it has to be your...
Be yourself.
Be yourself.
I mean, it's always been confirmed. Ashish, you tell me what you think about this. But in the end of the day, what they want from you is something so full of character that they don't really care whether it goes along with the market or not. On the contrary, sometimes it's much better not to go with the market.
So this might be a good time, because there are no deep trends or deep parent directions that are happening. So it's a good time to be yourself.
Exactly.
No,
and then, I mean, yeah, and then I mean, let's also look at what trends actually are. They usually, if you're a so-called classic brand, your trends of that very special fuchsia and that very special canary green kind of thing will be what, 3%, 5% of your actual collection, and coming to look at it, probably 2% of your sales, but 100% of your advertisement.
And also, Hemant, apart from the fact, which is true, that from companies like ours and yours to the big giants in Europe and America, everybody is sitting on stockpiles, right? So
That's
one big learning there is definitely this, that we've got to go seasonless, right? Therefore, trends will govern us less, and good product is what we should be looking at trying to sell. And so I think a lot of people are going to follow that, even when shows do start, whether physical or digital, that you're going to see a lot of seasonless clothing, where also a lot of pieces perhaps from the collection, which most of these collections weren't shown, as you know, right? So a lot of them will be redone or restyled into something else, restyled differently, and then shown perhaps in October, even as early as October.
Yeah, and let's face it, seasonality is a big topic in Europe, because we actually do have big differences in seasons. We have them in Delhi also, but then let's face it, winter is really short and the rest of the time is basically summer. So I think we're really lucky to be seasonless, and plus the traditional mindset being so present still in India. I don't think seasonality or trends are really that important. I think personal expression really is much more important.
I agree.
Okay, so there's one question that Akash has asked, and he writes, luxury markets in East Asia showed a positive growth when the economy opened in China and Taiwan. Is it the case with India too? What's your take on this?
If I
Luxury
can tell
market
you
in
that,
India.
you know, a lot has been said on this subject from across various webinars that I have done and various that I've heard of people's comments. I think we're just reading too much into that one revenge shopping sale that everyone heard of at the Hermes store in Shanghai, where they had that $2.7 million sale. But you know, if you put that aside, and a lot of people, retail specialists and luxury analysts, have said that it was just a one-off. It's not that it's repeated itself in other centers when they opened. It's not that people have gone out there and spent crazy amounts of money on, on similar other products like that, on other brands. So I don't think, we can base our understanding of how the luxury industry will bounce back just based on those two events that occurred in China. Also, I think there are a lot of conflicting reports coming out from across the world in terms of how the luxury markets are going to move forward. For instance, the LVMH has just declared their first quarter sales are down 68%, right? So that's like an obscene number in terms of, so you can't, and they're all saying that, listen, as we move forward, it's not these are very difficult things to predict. Consumer behavior to say that, come on, let's go out and spend $5,000 on a bag or on a, it's going to take some time for people to really be able to come up with how it's going to, in my personal opinion, I think luxury will take at least a year to sort of bounce back to the levels that it was at 2 years ago.
But two things about that, if I may just jump in. One thing is that yesterday BOF reported that in spite of all of this is the real conundrum, is that it still was the biggest season in the history of the world for online sales. This one here now. I mean, the measly bit that was left was the biggest season of online sales, let's put it that way. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that, sorry, I forgot it. What were you just saying, Ashish?
That will luxury bounce back?
Will it bounce back?
Yeah.
I think that's also a big question because Chanel still doesn't have a proper website. So if those biggies are supposed to be the ones who make the temperature, I'm not sure what's making the weather.
But we're talking about ultra luxury products. What about, something like an H&M or a Zara? What about those?
Well,
they don't exist without the catwalk. Huh?
And Zara is planning to shut down almost 1,100, 1,200 stores across the world. That's what it's on the Inditex website. It's what they're predicting, that many job losses, that many stores will have to be shut because it's not going to be possible for them to run so many brick and mortar shops.
Yeah, so not physically, but they will have online presence, all of them.
Yes, they'll have to. There's no other way.
So this is the change that is happening basically.
Okay, now if we consider that 30 to 50% of the garments made by Zara, H&M, and all of us altogether end up in landfills in places, I'm not quite sure what the point is. I think Zara should close much more shops.
So you're looking at sustainable fashion.
Absolutely, because I mean, now we're all talking about upcycling, we're talking about using up the stocks and not about splurging with material and making sure that those mountains become higher.
Correct.
So that is also something that needs to be taught to the new generation, which is learning fashion.
That was my next point, Jaivani. You should definitely incorporate that in your curriculum moving forward. Ideas that what are brands doing, what are people doing, what suggestions come out of young students to ensure that, they genuinely understand the relevance of sustainability and how important it is in this garment trade.
And if we look at, for example, a very, very interesting figure, Air France has announced that they think that travel will be back to the level we knew in 2019 only in 2028.
Oh.
I mean, if you look at how, Ashish, let's admit it, the way we were traveling, like going to Calcutta in the morning and coming back to Bombay in the evening, all of that, now it's been replaced by Zoom and it's wonderful. So, there we are.
I couldn't agree with Hemant more. That's personally a very big learning. That what was the need? Why were we doing that? Burning those that much, increasing the carbon footprint by crazy amounts, doing a meeting in Bombay, having lunch in Bangalore. It was just crazy. And
we were thinking like, oh, he'll feel bad if I don't come.
That's right. We managed to do all of that so easily. In fact, more effectively. Just by sitting in the comfort of our own homes and using digital platforms.
Right, exactly.
So I have one question. We keep talking about sustainability and slow fashion, but there's a certain amount of cost factor that comes along with it. And it's definitely not going to be easy. So how to deal with that? Because
the cost of sustainability is not...
It's always higher.
It's always higher. So how do you reconcile that?
Well, doing all that tracing is very, very difficult also, because especially for guys like us who make garments by the hundreds and not by the thousands. If you have to set up a whole office that's going to show show the consumer how wonderfully well we treat our own collections and how we're treating the planet right and all of that, and if we go bankrupt and trying to show it, it's not funny. So, and also when let's face it, young designers will go to Nehru Place and buy materials and stuff like that. They'll go for the price they can find, and if they ain't no traceability, well, fine, that's the way it is.
Well, even if you go to Nehru Place, Hemant, you can still delve into only the natural fiber fabrics. You can still use vegetable dyes. You can still do interesting techniques that will ensure that the product is special and interesting for me to buy. Even if the way the store, you created the packaging yourself, there's some interesting story. It doesn't have to be. I think it's more difficult for the big, very big, fast fashion giants when they say, even in H&M made that statement, if you remember, pre-COVID, which said by 2025 we'll be fully sustainable. I mean, was that a joke? I don't know how they'd ever plan to do that.
And they'll also have probably sold their $4 billion inventory. Ha ha ha.
That's right.
But it's a step towards the right direction.
But also, Vani, it's not just from with me and Hemant and others like us as manufacturers. It's a lot of it is also has to come from the consumer. Where yes, of course, that if a product is sustainable, it's more expensive for us to make. Therefore, you guys have to, as consumers, say, listen, we would buy this. We'd rather buy one of these than buy 5 other random T-shirts. That's the change that has to come from you guys.
I do this precious little collection called iOrganic, which is organic material. It's certified. It's GOTS certified. And I can tell you, even if I'm ashamed of it, that when I called all around to find out what this GOTS certification was about, the guy at the end, he started chuckling. He said, "Sabji, nahi pucho." So that's the truth behind all of this certification, is that you actually don't know. They can sell you a lot of things.
The consumer has to value this a lot more. The sustainable garments, they have
and also
value structure.
When I started making this ecological collection, that was, well, of course, it was a bit ahead of its time, because it's been like 11 years ago when I started making this thing. Many of the people I would explain the whole procedure to, they would say, this is a Oaxaca problem. It's not ours. We're not interested in knowing all of this. We want good prices. So, and I think, let's admit it, that still prevails to quite a large extent. I'm not sure how many youngsters would be prepared to spend 3 times the amount for the same thing just because they know where it comes from.
Hemant, a lot of that is quite, especially in the last, I was going through a CNBC report, which was talking about how the millennials as well as Gen Z are all actually have treated this lockdown, and there are a lot of learnings that have come out of it for them, which they plan to carry on doing as they move forward into the whatever level of normalcy that we eventually settle for. And some of those key findings are actually quite contrary to what you just said, which is that they've realized that they were, they were just shopping for shopping's sake. They were buying things they never needed. They weren't spending enough time
No, sorry, I was referring to the Indian market. I was referring to our people who felt that this was a bit too progressive for them.
Right. No, what I'm saying is that, in fact, if we go back to the organic part, I think that's the thing you should be pushing now.
That's exactly what we're doing, yeah.
Yeah. And you've mentioned in terms of the younger generation, a lot of them would perhaps now look at it very differently, saying that, yes, I think we were over-consuming. We need to...
younger generation is mindful of all of this.
Yeah.
True. Absolutely. I was just trying to illustrate where we're coming from.
But isn't it also a question between affordable and expensive, like what Hemant just said? If you can buy it at 1/3 the price, are people willing? So how many people are actually willing to pay you so much? So, sellability, making money,
That's where our design thinking will come in. We will teach our...
Yes, ma'am. But then, I know, but then it is also the consumer's thought process here. So how does that happen?
And then design their lines.
Vani, I think we're entering a kind of a zone which is very, very unique in India, because let's face it, it might be changing now, but the market of seduction, fashion is supposed to be about seduction, and in a society of arranged marriages, there is less seduction than elsewhere. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but I'm saying that you're kind of guaranteed of a life and you're guaranteed of a way of doing it. So I have never seen this before in my career anywhere else, that a lady will say, I'll do the evening dress, but if it's over 3 lakhs, I'm not doing it, full stop. In Europe, she's ready to go stealing to get that dress because she wants to seduce, because it's like an urge, it's like a pressure. That urge doesn't exist. She'll get the best thing she can in her budget, but she's going to be extremely budget aware. It might change now. I hope it will change. But I'm talking about the few couture clients that I have seen in India, and I was quite often shocked because it's a very, very different thing. In Brazil, she'll come in through the window, steal a garment, and go out of the window again.
Okay, I have another question. What kind of technology and protective fabrics materials are there or will be there in the future, considering the hygiene and the protection required in this specifically, in the light of the pandemic that we are facing, and how viable these are? Are there any compromises in terms of design? How versatile are they? Is it feasible for us to go ahead, use them and incorporate in our designs?
So Kriti, it's a very recent, phenomenon, because people have been working on it in this space specifically prior to COVID, but more in terms of for use within the medical industry or within the use of the hospitality industry in the back end areas where, for example, on chef courts and things like that, where genuinely these are people who are cooking for me and you in restaurants. And therefore, the mills were experimenting with fabrics that had antiviral and antimicrobial features. So I think they've had to, step on the gas as soon as this pandemic hit to see that maybe now there's a bigger use of these fabrics within the fashion sphere more than just within the utility and the hospitality and the medical industry that they were primarily targeting earlier. So I have seen some of them, and there's been a lot of activity in terms of from both even Indian mills that have ventured into this and are trying very, very hard to come up with interesting developments. So there are two things here. One is, of course, the fabrics still need to feel real, right? You don't want to buy. It's not about fabrics that have those. It's just simple coatings where they start feeling almost like whether it's
Plastic
plasticky or
yeah.
raincoaty, and or have a vinyl kind of thing. It's more to figure out key treatments that go that treat the yarns, yet keep where fabrics maintain their natural feel.
Breathability.
Yeah, people are saying that it's take there's certain fabrics have been already been developed where you can actually wash the product, home wash the product up to 50 times, and it retains those antiviral properties. I think it's a great idea moving forward, especially for people where there's a lot of people who are using public transport or are in
Airline staff.
airline staff.
Not for uniforms.
Yeah, so where you're wearing those things, and genuinely if you're exposed, if you come in contact with a surface that has the virus, for example, you will not spread it because the fabrics have those properties. But I still think we're still about 4 months away worldwide for it to become where till you see physical garments hanging in stores saying, okay, this jacket has been made with antibacterial properties and all of that.
Antibacterial is already there. Antiviral, I've been seeing a little bit. I've seen some in the papers and all, but yeah, they're not there in large numbers. But perhaps the demand will push more people to bring it in.
So we're still in like the experimental phase right now. We're still like
right.
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly, right. So the next question is, what kind of skill sets are required for us as students when we step into the industry or while we're in college? Is there anything specific that we need to know apart from how the classroom teachings have been going on so far? Is there something that we need to add on, or something specific that we need to work on?
Well, I've been to a number of, I met many designers and since here at college, and the first thing they say, oh, do you have someone who can do digital marketing? So that is, of course, we do impart that, but somehow that has become very, very important because earlier the conventional marketing was different, but now a lot of it is sort of narrowing down to digital. Most people spend hours together on online and other things. So that is a good place to sort of for designers also. Earlier designers would. I remember a long time back when I was dealing with even brands like Lacoste. They said, no, we don't do anything online. We consider that infra-dig almost. But that's changing now quite a bit. What do you feel now?
The only thing I'd like to add to that is, and it's something I think Hemant would totally relate to, which is, at least for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of us, not just in fashion, in everything else that we do, this pandemic has also taught us that, like the West used to, we never sort of followed that pattern of being able to multitask, and used to have a person for every single operation, perhaps within our studios and our factories. I think one definite thing personally as well is, we've all had to multitask during the last 5 months, but be it at home or once things started opening up within our factories and our studios. There were many people who didn't come back to work. Some people we had to let go of. Therefore, that didn't mean that those roles got filled by other people. It's just that, if I was doing only one thing, I ended up doing 5 other things as well. And that's how a lot of good businesses work. They need to be lean in order to be profitable. And so I think, to answer your question specifically, what we would definitely be what I would like out of this new generation is that ability to be able to multitask. So when Mr. Kaul says that it's somebody who's extremely creative, but very, very good at digital marketing, it makes it easier for us to hire him, whereas with somebody else who perhaps is only very good at, say, a particular form in a creative activity and nothing else.
Also, to add that, I feel that, as an institute, we could provide the skills to the students, but it's going to be very, very competitive out there. So again, you have to have the will to learn on your own as well, and to kind of expand on what you've learned yourself. So like again, it comes to multitasking or having the latest information about stuff, be innovative, keep learning.
That goes well with change, and change is just happening faster and faster.
Well, you know, if you look at these so-called disruptive technologies, and we go back in history, let's say by about 100 years, in 1907, 6% of the traffic in New York City was cars, and the rest was horse carriages. And they were all saying, "Oh, those automatic things, they won't get anywhere." And 10 years later, 4% were horse carriages, and the rest were cars. So it's not very different right now if you look at digital marketing. So when our Belgium friend says that it's a gimmick, yes, probably they thought the cars were a gimmick. And Mr. Ford said it's never going to happen. It's always going to be like in 10 years, the horses will be back. So I don't think anything will come back ever. I think everything evolves, and it's all about stepping stones, and it's all about niches. So what the other one person says is that his success story is the old system. It's probably true. And when the other one says his success story is disrupting everything, changing it all and radically, it's probably true also. So, you know, we all have our niches, and we have to find them out, and we have to work in them and become successful. And, you know, also this thing about, we were talking about these materials that are so progressive. Sometimes the lousy material will be successful because it's better, he gets better commercial distribution. So you just don't know. You just have to be in it, and you have to work, and you have to believe in it and push it. And that's the way it is for everything, you know, it's not just for fashion.
So next question, I have a lot of these students here asking similar questions, and this is more to do with the design process. They want to know how do you as designers come up, how do you draw your inspiration, how to look at things and, you know, draw inspiration and take it forward and, you know, incorporate it in your design collections.
This is more conventional, but
Yeah,
in the present circumstances, more.
I have quite a many of them asking the same similar kind of a question here, so I thought I might as well just put it across.
Well, there's this feeling of the times, as you say, and it all comes along with technological advancement, and it kind of grows together. It just some things make sense and some things don't make sense, and events or new phases of society and evolution change the way we dress. So fashion being a social phenomenon, what do you do about it when there's no society? Like us now sitting at home. So is the new fashion non-fashion? We don't know. It just depends on how many events will come up, how people will treat the inspiration, how the trends will get there. You know, trends exist just since about 1850, since organized fashion exists. Before organized fashion, fashions came from royalty, from Napoleon's wife was a big fashion icon in the 1830s. So you know, there's a way of launching a fashion which can become a fashion because it was not launched like its predecessor. So there's no machine to do it. I think it all depends on character and genius. And of course, that's again for the so-called real, the pinnacle, the tip of the iceberg of fashion. And then the other ones who can be much more successful than that fellow on the tip is the guys who just make it commercial when it's right, when the time is right. Because sometimes that idea comes and it's so phenomenal. Everyone talks about it, but no one wears it. And the guy who copies it 3 seasons later, he's the one who's the winner.
He makes the money. And it's risk-free. So Ashish, how does it? How do these ideas come to you?
Well, you know, this is not about pre-COVID or post-COVID. I think we're still
right. It's more conventional,
so, in terms of ideas can come, you know, anywhere. It could be a movie that one saw, you know, musical piece, going to the opera, just sitting on the street somewhere and you know, seeing something interesting that triggers a thought. A book that you've read. It could be anything as conventional as that, or then like Hemant was talking about, where when something that's influenced you strongly, you know, over a period of time that you wish to convert into your statement in terms of because your language is fashion. But I think more or less, given where we are right now, a lot of those things can still, can still inspire people, and especially the young people. Also, yes, I think when we need to differentiate. What's important is to differentiate inspiration from being influenced. Right, a lot of one problem I feel that I see very often in a lot of young people is they're very influenced by other styles. So whereas my thing would be it could be just develop your own signature, develop something that you find interesting, and the process it's always different for different people. So you'll find your process, and then it'll sort of guide you and take you somewhere. Currently, where we are, I think more or less across the world, and it's not just like we were discussing earlier, because things have gotten seasonless and no one's really focused. And like what Hemant was saying, for example, people on the streets are wearing black, brown, gray, navy, very comfortable clothing. There are a bunch of surveys that have happened in the last 5 months, even before when people were buying things online, that especially for the next couple of years, similar thing happened in 2008 when the markets crashed, that there was a whole revival of the minimalist movement. People sort of said, we want to stay somber. There was this overconsumption was kind of gone. People wanted to buy good classic things that were comfortable, they could live in. They could, easily, it could fit into their wardrobe and not fade away next season because it was just a trend and nothing else. So I think this is a good time for those who understand the minimalist language. And I personally foresee that as a big trend for at least for the next couple of seasons.
Let's also put it this way. When Ashish says classic and he does it his way, it ain't so classic. Everyone has his own handwriting, and I think that's really important, because classic 1 and classic 2 is not the same.
Agreed.
Right. They all struggle a lot with their inspirations and their project work. So I hope that answers their question. So I have this one last question. Considering the scenario, there must have been a huge lull period that all the designers must have profusely faced. How have you dealt with this situation? And what do you suggest that the homegrown labels can deal with it? Like, because it's this whole period have kind of extended and doesn't seem to be getting back to normal anytime soon. So what have been your strategies dealing with it, and what do you suggest to the people who are not as big, and what should they be doing in looking at it?
Hemant, you want to take that first?
I'd rather not.
Okay, I'll have to answer it. So, Kriti, firstly, to tell you that how we dealt with it, we are still dealing. Like
exactly.
as Hemant said, it's not something that we've dealt with and we moved on and we're back on our high horses. No such thing. It's an extremely difficult time.
Yeah, and wanting to continue is one thing. Being able to continue is another thing. It's about deep pockets. Unfortunately,
yeah,
it really is about deep pockets. So what do you do when you have all your employees that you have to pay, and nothing is coming out, and you want to maintain them, you want to keep them happy and all of that, and you're not selling anything. I mean, they have to get financed somehow. So the core of the problem is still the same one.
Any fashion, forget fashion business. I think all businesses that have come out of it and will come out of this up, like Hemant said, are people who are going to, just been dipping into their reserves, and it depends on how deep those reserves are. Can you see this through? Is it a 6-month thing? Is it a 1-year thing? Is it a 1.5-year thing? So of course, what you're trying to cut down overheads, you're cutting expenses. Of course, things like travel have anyway vanished. So there are
photography.
Sorry?
Photography.
Yes.
It's like, that's a disappearing profession, because now it's that talented fellow in the studio who's taking the pictures with his iPhone.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. And you know what? I think it's even more expressive than it was before.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's, like I was saying, there's more heart and soul into it, because we're using that
Personality.
tone, you're being more personality. Exactly.
Exactly. And suddenly we're saving up on models and we're just saying, oh, well, he's quite nice looking and she's really cute.
Yes.
Let's put them together on this, and then we'll just say, well, he's the cutter and she's the pattern maker, and it's going to be like in-house PR, and everyone is kind of touched because it's a very personal story. The fact is we can't do anything else.
Yeah.
You have to sustain something.
Okay, I think we have had the last question. I think we have had a very good 2 hours. That's a long time. We have deliberated a lot, and I can see passion also all over the place. So to close it, I will ask for the last words. We started by asking what is the future of fashion? What is the bottom line? Is it alive and kicking? And how should we look at it? So let me start with the panelists who are here still on the panel. Vani, your last words on the future of fashion, that is.
So again, as an educator, my whole focus is going to be in empowering the students that we are preparing for the fashion industry, and based on the feedbacks of the people who are really in the industry, we will try and implement and upgrade the skills of all the students that we provide. Because our responsibility is twofold. So one is towards the students and the other is towards the industry, fashion industry. So the kind of curriculum that we teach to our students will be based on what is required and what are the skills that are needed by the industry. So that is how we will prepare for the future. And we will train them on how to be most innovative and try and incorporate the most innovative ways of delivery, so that the experience is for the student is the best. And obviously, because our dealing is always transformational with the child. It's not transactional. It's not as if the student comes in and goes away. It's a lifelong emotional attachment that we create with the student. So we need to see the product that we put out there is the most useful for the industry.
Thank you. Hemant, is the future of fashion in good hands? Should we be optimistic?
Well, the good news is that everyone will have to continue dressing.
Yes. So we have no choice.
I have no choice on that one. I do dream of a world in which we don't have stocks, and we could.
That can happen technologically. It can happen.
Yeah, I mean, we design a garment and we 3D laser measure it and we 3D print it in her living room, and it's
3D
direct.
print, and you deliver it home.
Don't deliver.
You don't need.
Prints it herself.
Customer has got a printer at home.
Right.
Right. Okay. So good. There is always. And Ashish, what is the future of fashion?
Well, I'm going to go with the optimists and the realists who are saying that yes, things will bounce back in say perhaps in the next 8 to 12 months. And yes, it'll be a new normal, but hopefully we'll be back on our feet, and people will, like Hemant said, people still will we still need to wear clothes, so people will come out, and perhaps after being locked down for so long and pent up emotion, I'm not going into the revenge shopping thing, but definitely come out to say that let's celebrate ourselves. And people have been home, they've been either a lot of people have lost weight, a lot of people are looking better, so they hopefully want to buy clothes whether they're occasions or not. And so for me, I'm definitely upbeat to the fact that yes, we've got to hang in there for the next 12 months at the most, and hopefully things will be back to where they were.
Okay. With that positive thought, I would like to thank everyone for attending this, and the panelists to spare a valuable part of their time and to sort of share their thoughts. I hope this message gets communicated even beyond today. and it sort of results in more discussions and more directions to where the fashion industry should go. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.
All.
Bye.
Thank you.